Ready Check Radio. What's up, Internet? It's Thursday, it's 7 p.m. Eastern. That means here on Ready Check Radio, it's time for the Relic Grind, our Final Fantasy XIV / Square Enix podcast. It's been 1 week since Final Fantasy XVI unleashed upon the world. And it seemed a little silly to be talking about it a few hours after release, particularly since one of our hosts was barely going to have it by showtime, if have it in their hands by showtime. So we canceled the show last week. So we're doing episode 109 this week live, twitch.tv/ReadyCheckRadio. We got chat hanging by to chat about Final Fantasy XVI and some other Square Enix stuff. If you're joining us on YouTube or on Audible, iTunes, Spotify, any of those platforms, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Give it a like, a thumbs up, a subscribe, turn on the notifications. You know the drill. But most of all, if you like what we do here, tell your friend. Joining me to talk about all the 14 and 16 goodness, Mr. Chris Montoya, a.k.a. Tarkoth. What's up, sir?
Greetings, programs. Doing pretty good. Before we dive into stuff, though, there's been this thing between you and me for, since we've started this show, this little rivalry, and we call it the Minion rivalry. As of right this moment.
What you're talking about.
As of right this moment, that top line there, that's my number. That bottom line is your number.
Oh, so somebody went ahead and bought a bunch of stuff?
No. I earned them.
Uh-huh.
I don't go purchasing those premium ones. But as of this moment, I'm sure you'll go in, you'll refresh, and in 5 seconds, you will be the top. But as of this moment, I am the Minion King on this show.
Well, I guess that's one way to win a race, is not tell anybody else you're having it. Also on the line, Mr. Paul Berlin, a.k.a. Flynn. What's up, sir?
I get withdrawal already from 16. I just want to be back on the PS5 and playing.
Yeah, I do too. But sadly, after the show, it's the last Thursday of the month, so I have a conference call with Asia tonight. So I got to get that out of the way.
I've got sleep.
I got to get that out of the way.
I got 14, so.
Yeah. Got 14. Well, let's talk about 14. Not a ton of news, but the 10th anniversary site did go up this week.
It did.
Yeah. So, and it seems like they're going to do kind of what they did with Final Fantasy XI and some other franchises where it's hey, the whole year is the 10th anniversary celebration because they're using it to kind of lead up to their 14-hour broadcast, but that's not going to take place until spring of next year. So that's the tail end of the 10th anniversary for Final Fantasy XIV. But we've got giveaways, we've got in-game events. Now, a lot of them we knew about, right? In fact, we had the Make It Rain event coming up, and we already knew about that. We knew Moogle Treasure Trove was coming up, but and of course the Rising. That always comes up for the anniversaries.
Sure.
But on the Moogle Treasure Trove portion of it, that one's going to be a little different from what they're saying, right? It's going to run a little longer, and it says a special Moogle Treasure Trove. No, I don't know if that means, hey, there's extra stuff, extra prizes. I don't know if that means there's, different events to do. It just says presenting a special Moogle Treasure Trove event. Stay tuned for some amazing rewards. So maybe there'll be something like 10th anniversary in there. And then the Rising as well. Those are both late August right now.
If it's truly special, don't rehash any of the rewards. Make it all new rewards up and down the list. And then you're just I gotta get everything.
That'd be awesome.
I gotta play the game. I can't not play the game.
And then in 645, which is just right around the corner, special 10th anniversary frames and stickers will be available for group pose, and those are only going to be available for a limited time. So if you are all about G-pose stuff, there's some stuff that you're definitely going to want to pick up. Of course, all of this leading to FanFest, Tark. 1 month.
Yeah.
1 month headed into FanFest. You stoked?
I'm stoked.
You like? Are you like anxious about it yet? Like, come on.
It's hard to
Or
be
is it,
anxious
are we
about
still a
it when I
little too
know
far from it still?
we're still a little too far from it, and there's a couple weekends where I have my kids, so it's hard for me to get excited when I need to focus on them first and doing things with them. After the weekends with them, then it's like literally days until FanFest. So then it's like, all right, now I gotta pack, gotta make sure I have my signature book, and I'm still waiting for my merch. I want to get my merch in and just show all that off. So, getting there.
No, so the Moogle Treasure Trove usually, Flynn, goes about a month, and we could kind of use that to gauge when 6.5 is going to drop, right? But this one being a special one, starting at a different time, I mean, Q, who wrote it up on MMO Bomb, kind of speculated maybe 6.5 then is kind of looking at a September 19th or September 26th. I actually think we got to bake like a week or two into that we haven't historically had to. So I'm kind of thinking like first or second Tuesday of October, but all in all, that's kind of in the end of September, beginning of October for 6.5. That sound about right for you?
Yeah, I think so. I know I did sort of math it out a while back because we're in the summer period and we know they're having.
Because that's still 3 months away.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds about right. Since we haven't had 6.45 yet.
I've been saying that's the time frame for months now. Beginning.
We'll have had the fan fest, so we'll know about the expansion, or we'll at least know the beginnings of stuff in the expansion. The artwork on that site looks amazing, by the way.
Oh, it does.
I agree.
I love that artwork. So yeah, there's a bunch of different tabs you can go talk through or flick through. Look at the art of Eorzea, designing boss battles. There's a sale and merch tab, but you can't access those yet. I'm assuming that's just going to be some special 10th anniversary stuff, patches, hats, coats, that type of thing. That'll all be sold out way too quick, way too fast.
Have we seen any trademarks yet this year?
Good question. No, I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, nothing spoiled. So, although last time around it was like what we saw Forspoken, and we were like, yeah, that kind of definitely works as an expansion title, and they were like, nah.
That's something completely different. It's like, well, what could it be?
One thing I like on this special site, the special site launched on the 27th, so 2 days ago. And one of the key parts that they are advertising is the collab thing with the Cumulus Cloud, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Cumulus Cloud started on the 14th of June and ended on the 27th. So the site went up to advertise this thing that's been going for 2 weeks, but is going to end in a couple hours. I was like, okay.
But also shows the Fat Chocobo one from last month as well, to be fair.
Yeah. Okay. A little late to the party there.
Yeah, just a little bit. And then are you going to be staying, by the way, for the Eorzean Symphony? It's not at the FanFest proper. I think it's like the day after the FanFest. Are you staying and going to that?
Yeah, we found out about it. We extended our room an extra day. I hadn't booked my flight, so I was like, I guess I'm staying until Monday. So yes, we will be seeing the symphony. Be my first Final Fantasy Symphony. I am hyped about that more than maybe the FanFest. I'm like, that's going to make me so giddy. I love this music.
Oh yeah, and seeing them live is just amazing. Like I've seen Distant Worlds and some of the other Final Fantasy concerts. I very jealous on that one. I would, if I had to pick one to go to, that'd probably be the one I go to over FanFest. Not that I'm not interested in what's going on at FanFest.
Over the first FanFest especially, I think so.
Yeah. Set list subject to change, but part 1 gonna focus on A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, and Stormblood, and then part 2 off to Shadowbringers and Endwalker. Looks like they got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in part 1, and 8 pieces in part 2. And again, that set list could change, but they're gonna be doing 18 songs. You're gonna hear some good ones. I mean, Torn from the Heavens, Ultima, Dragon Song, the Heavensward theme, Songs of Salt and Suffering, Close in the Distance, Tomorrow, Shadowbringers. That's gonna be a hell of a show.
Yeah, you got Amanda Aiken and Jason Charles Miller there as well. So
that's what I heard. They're both going to be there. So I'm like, that's a good choice.
Yeah, you're gonna be seeing a hell of a show. And then Make It Rain kicks off tomorrow, right? 30th? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Make It Rain.
Mania 420 right there.
Yeah, get Godbert and him in his final form, in his skivvies. Wind up Godbert. Thought initially that we weren't going to see a naked Godbert, and Final
They couldn't
Fantasy.
do it
They can get without it being bad.
They just couldn't resist. They got the naked one in there. And that's about it on the 14 front. How's Savage's going there, Tark?
Actually, really good. We are, I want to say, halfway through P11S. That fight is pain in the butt. Not as big a pain in the butt as the castle, but the mechanics are quick and like in your face, which I really enjoy. I hate a slow plodding fight, so bring it on. What
about you there, Mr. Flynn? How's it going?
We're almost at the end of P9S now. We've done a 8-minute 30 pull.
Did you just call me penis?
About in reach? No. Jeez.
Did you just call me penis?
No.
Oh, you said P9S. Oh,
yes.
Okay. Okay.
It's just it's the Welshness.
It's the Welshness coming through. P9S.
Are you still in 16 understanding this British lingo?
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. Savage. Savage penis.
The boss, also known as the Mouth of Sauron. Okay, right?
Anyway, how's it going, Flynn? Sorry.
Yeah, 8-minute 30 pull. I think we're in what I'd be guessing is where things from early phases just repeats now until Enrage.
Nice.
Past the second limit, so just assuming everything seems to be variants of what has come before.
Nice. Well, good luck, gentlemen. I guess we should move on, right?
Sure. I mean, was there anything else to talk about?
There was like some other Square Enix news. Yeah, special site.
Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, we got that. Okay. We got that too. Yeah, we got that. Little Microsoft, Activision, FTC news as it relates to Square Enix, which shouldn't surprise. This total sidebar, and I'm probably going to talk about this more on MMO Bomb tomorrow, where we actually talk about some of the FTC things. But like, I am really sick of all the videos or like tweets and stuff. It's like, oh, this bombshell was. None of it is surprising. None of it is surprising. All this stuff that's like accidentally coming out of the FTC stuff. Oh, Call of Duty sells 2 times as much on the PlayStation. Yeah, no shit. The PlayStation has a much bigger install base.
Yes.
I do love the one thing on the Sony side where to errata their dogmas, they use a highlighter.
Yeah. They used a Sharpie. Yeah, that was they used a Sharpie. So when you scanned the things that didn't work, nothing was actually redacted. Microsoft considered buying some companies, including Square Enix. No shit. Like,
they try to acquire everyone. Acquire everyone.
None of it is. Here's another bombshell. Ryan was totally fine with Call of Duty. He knew they weren't going to make it exclusive. He just didn't want the deal to go through, and Game Pass takes away money. Yeah, no shit. We've talked about all these for like 3 years. I don't even work for these companies, and I could have guessed this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Anyway, yeah, people do. So speaking of sales, Final Fantasy 16 coming out. Who's doing his job?
Ryan. Jim Ryan.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly.
That's just doing his job. That's all.
Oh, look at this. They had a takeover plan in 2019 to put Sony out of business. Dude, Microsoft should always be thinking about ways to take their competition out of the market. Just like Sony should be, too. It's unrealistic that you could probably pull it off, but strategies to try and pull it off are probably going to help you in other ways. It's gross. It's gross. Anyway.
Oh, my goodness.
Final Fantasy XIV, it's been out for a week now.
It has?
Yeah. Shipped and digitally sold 3 million copies. That's as of basically this morning. 3 million copies. So it's a bigger number now, but a little over 3 million. That puts it in line, to give you some perspective, right with Final Fantasy VII Remake's launch, which was about 3.5 million in 10 days. So, in 7 days plus 3. Final Fantasy XIV will probably get there. But it does put it, interestingly, lagging behind Final Fantasy XV, which was still is the fastest selling entry, with 5 million units sold and shipped digitally when it came out. But there's an important caveat there, right? 15 was multi-platform.
Sure.
16
Yes.
is obviously limited to just the PlayStation 5.
Which is a smaller game base as well.
I unfortunately, we're going to hear that coming from Creative Business Unit 3 that unfortunately this title did not meet expectations because it just did not meet the sales of 15. So it's sad.
Mr. Final Max in chat. In other bombshell news, water is wet. Yeah. I think I think you're right, Flynn, but talk about why. Why do you think 3 million's okay?
Because CPU-free are not idiots. There's 3 million people. They have pushed a lot of PlayStation 5 console sales as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be 3 million now, but there's people who bought a PS5 for the first time because this game exists. And
yeah, and as of Q1 this year, that's about a 10% install base sell-through, right? Because as of April, they were like 35 or 38 million PS5 units globally. So 3 million is going to put it a little less, like 8%, 7.5% sell-through as far as the install base. And that's in 7 days. 7 days.
It's not bad.
Now, but you kind of, Tark, jokingly said it didn't meet expectations, is kind of a Square Enix thing that they say often. But there were rumors that they were worried about the pre-order rate of the game. Do you think 3 million in the first week is what they were looking for? Or do you think it's not legitimately, whether we think it's a joke or not, less than what they were anticipating?
I think that they are probably really happy with this. I think they were looking at the same numbers that 7 Remake got, and that was at like the height of the pandemic when it pretty much all started. So I can guesstimate that that's what they were aiming for, especially with it being PS5 exclusive. Apparently, it is going to come to PC. I guess no official announcements yet, right?
Well, they were the only announcements, that they were going to start development on the PC port after the PlayStation 5 launch.
Wow. Okay.
So no date for it or anything.
I mean, it looks good. I don't know if there's any DLC planned for this or not. But yeah, I think they're in a happy spot with it.
Do you agree, Mr. Flynn?
Yeah, like we just said, with the smaller overall game base that this is going to, 3 million units is a really strong position to come in at.
Yeah, especially, I mean, 7 Remake came in on the PS4, and that install base was just ginormous. So I think 3 million with the PS5 alone has got to put a smile on their face.
Yeah, and you brought up DLC. Remember, at least back in May when they were publicly like doing interviews and stuff, so not all that long ago, there were no plans for DLC for Final Fantasy XVI. In fact, that kind of went counter to what Yoshi P wanted to do with this, which was ship the game day one, story start, story end. Unlike Final Fantasy 15 that relied on a movie and a book and a manga or anime, whatever it was, I don't remember, and some DLCs on that. Yeah. So Final Max, Mr. Final Max says they may have expected for more of the special edition copies to sell as fast, but the digital sales should be just fine. 3 million, off to a good start. I guess we should talk about the game proper. Obviously, we are not going to go into spoilers here. In fact, some of the B-roll that I'll be using is literally IGN's 18 minutes of gameplay from about a week and a half, 2 weeks before the game launched. So it was like what the press had access to, and I think we used it for B-roll back then when we were talking about it. But I did that specifically so I wouldn't accidentally record a spoiler in like a quest name or a character that was running next to Clive in my screen,
abilities you have,
or abilities I have, or anything like that. So any B-roll you see here is totally safe to watch. You saw it before, 2 weeks before launch, and just like some generic dungeon gameplay with Clive. I don't want our conversation to focus around some things we've discussed in the past, gentlemen, on whether this is a mainline feeling game to us or not. So let's take a few minutes very briefly right here at the beginning to address the whole like controversy, because whether you like it or not, it's a controversial title. I mean, you might think that's dumb, and maybe it is, but you got this is totally a Final Fantasy and totally belongs there in the mainline series crowd, and then you've got the other crowd that says absolutely not. This is, not my Final Fantasy. And so we've all expressed opinions on that, maybe this doesn't fit what we know or feel as a mainline series. And over the past 2 weeks, watching the game, playing the game, talking to other people who maybe don't share my personal opinions, I've kind of come to my own personal decision, and it's, you know what, you're both right. Like, it depends on what you look for. What is a Final Fantasy game to you? They, of course, have evolved in different ways, and that's the other thing. People like saying, oh, well, they evolve. Every single one evolves. So, okay, but they don't swap genres. Yeah, sure, they messed with the ATB system a little bit. They, added Moogles in this one and all that stuff. Yeah, sure, but they haven't swapped genres. This, like it or not, did. And so I think it comes down to what is a mainline title for you. If it's a story, a compelling character, the nostalgia beats of seeing a Chocobo and a Moogle and nods to other series staples like that, I feel like you're probably feeling like this is a mainline Final Fantasy. If you're, and I'm going to take turn-based out of this because the last 3 or 4 titles have been wild variations of, and very loosely turn-based at best. So let's take that and set it aside. If you're more looking for party mechanics, in-depth RPG elements, gearing, strategy in buffs and debuffs, and pre-fight planning to that type of equipment and item usage and stuff like that, then this probably isn't quote-unquote your Final Fantasy. So I think it just comes down to what you're looking for. What is a Final Fantasy game to you, whether this one fits in the mold or not? Tark, what do you think of the whole debate right now?
I think branding is important. If I pick up, let's just say, Mortal Kombat 2, I'm expecting a fighting game. If it turns out to be a double dragon side-scroller beat-em-up, which would be awesome, by the way.
Right, but we got to go back to you have experience with Mortal Kombat, though.
Yes, but if I just go into it just saying, "Oh, this is a new Mortal Kombat title," and pick it up, and it's not a fighting game, like what the hell? Okay, I'm picking up strictly based on the title alone. I'm expecting a certain product, certain genre. They're shifting that genre. Maybe not everybody is aware of that. I like to think that more people are educated these days with the internet, but there's going to be some people that are just, hey, new Final Fantasy's out, I'm picking that up, and it's not exactly what they expected. I think the game is great.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the game itself in a minute here. Just kind of the controversy thing first. Flynn, what's your? I'm sorry, Tark. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, brother.
I just think I'm kind of with you. Like, if this is the way they want to go, and this is the way the future is, that's fine. This can be a lot of people's first Final Fantasy, and this be their Final Fantasy. Totally get it. I hope you enjoy the series.
Which was, to be honest, Creative Business Unit's 3's whole point. That was their whole objective, and I don't think, whether you like it or not, you can argue with, they met the objective that they were actually going for. This wasn't an accident.
This is what they stated. They told us, hey, this is going to be an action title. This is going to be an action title. They didn't really diverge from that ever. So they're giving us what they told us they were going to give us. I just feel I want a Final Fantasy game with the RPG elements, that at least some sort of turn-based fun. I'm playing 15, and even I feel like that's a little disconnected. This is even more outside that realm. So I'm loving the game. I just don't feel it as the Final Fantasy proper mainline title.
So if it was Stranger of Paradise 2, you'd be totally fine.
Yeah, This would, you can attach Final Fantasy. They've done it for so many different titles. Final Fantasy Tactics, right. Type 0, Four Warriors of Light. Like, there's so many different titles that have the Final Fantasy name attached to it. I guess I don't understand. And we talked. It's probably just for marketing. They wanted to sell a crap load of this. They succeeded, and they're doing it. It's just I'm not feeling this as a mainline title.
Flynn?
Yeah, I'm completely of way. This is very much Final Fantasy to me. Fair enough. You looking at it as an action game, it may feel wrong, but it's a system that they needed to tell the story that they're telling and the experience to go along with it. Because I should be the furthest ahead right now out of the three of us.
My PlayStation tells me I'm 50% through the game, the game's main stuff, but I have also stopped and done every side quest and every hunt available to me as they become available.
Yeah, I'm at 76% as of an hour ago, 58 odd hours, and the story, it's told in a way that 15 attempted, whereas Clive only knows so much, and then he meant to go out. Noctis only knows so much, and you go out in the world and learn bits more. But they're actually finding ways to make you care about the world, explore the world, find this information out that isn't just first-hand. You're actually seeing third-hand events.
Yeah, there's a ton of dramatic irony where we know more than Clive.
Yeah, but everything builds the way it does. Like, I'm a Final Fantasy VIII lover, and it's one I was talking to a buddy of mine. It's like, if you took Final Fantasy VIII, remove the Final Fantasy title, you would not know it's a Final Fantasy game. The story is just so off the rails, so out there, that it doesn't feel Final Fantasy. Yeah, it's got a Final Fantasy name. And I think in some ways 16's got that sort of approach. You either see it as Final Fantasy or not, but the name is there and it is what it is.
Yeah, it does. I'll tell you this, like CBU3 absolutely achieved their objective here. Their objective was, now whether it'll be a success or not is the question mark, right? Mm-hmm. They wanted an action title deviating away from the classic RPG trappings. They wanted to go the God of War / Devil May Cry route, try to attract a younger audience that isn't used to Final Fantasy titles, or maybe just knows them peripherally. And so, I don't play turn-based stuff. And so this was the route they wanted, that they absolutely wanted to travel. Whether it'll pay off, right? Because you do, like it or not, you do have to evolve, right? You do have to evolve in certain ways, but you always run the risk during evolutions of alienating the people that got you there. And so that's the portion that I think remains to be seen. I'm going to give them props for not being afraid to try it. And thinking it might be. Now, whether it pans out for them, I don't know. It's a good game. If you totally put a totally different name on it, I'd be sitting here telling you it's a good game without any caveats. And I don't think there are any caveats here, but I also will say that in my experience so far, I think that's all it is so far for me. A good game. I don't think it's going to hit the 10 out of 10 meter for me, but not every Final Fantasy has. It's certainly not going to hit the 6 out of 10 meter for me, and some Final Fantasies have. So where it'll end up finishing, I don't know. Right now, I'm feeling like it's kind of like a 7.5 to a 9, right in there. But that's a pretty wide range, and I'll have to narrow that down as I continue to get more. Onto the game itself. Taking that whole discussion off the table, let's just talk about the game itself. First off, it's gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. That doesn't mean it's always gorgeous, but it is usually. There are some animations that I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? Like,
I've seen some stuttering. I'm like, what? Why is he skipping?
Yeah, when Clive jumps in town, I don't know what that animation is.
Yeah, I literally showed that to Flynn. I'm like, what is that? That's as high as he could jump? Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
it's very weird.
And he can jump quite high.
Yeah, out on the field, you do whatever you want. In combat, you do whatever you want. In town, he skips. Like, I don't know what that is. And there's some goofy odds and ends like that. But setting those aside, things in the distance have a weird frame rate sometimes too. like off in the distance. And performance mode needs some work. It's not it's not great. Motion blur, I know, is a huge thing for some people. Luckily enough, I don't have a problem with the motion blur, so it doesn't bother me. But definitely something they need to address as well. But as far as the visual and sound aesthetics, it is absolutely beautiful. The music is phenomenal, although there are a few tracks that I think are kind of overused and aren't interesting enough for the amount of times that they use them. But generally, just Soken's work is phenomenal. And the voice acting is incredible, like 98% of the time. Clive is dead on.
Oh, yeah.
Ben Starr.
Dead on. And he has to be. Because this is a one character story. Yeah, there's other characters, but if you don't like Clive, don't play. Like, don't play.
Not your game.
So all across the board, Tark there, it gets very, very high marks for me on that presentation aspect.
Visuals, A plus. Again, you talked about the motion blur. I haven't had a problem with the motion blur. I've seen some stuttering, especially like in cutscenes, which is weird. Like the cutscenes should just be kind of what they are. Combat hasn't been an issue for me as far as performance. I've had some lip sync issues. Like I'll hear the words, but the mouth isn't moving, which is weird because I know that they designed the lip sync against the
around
English
language. Yeah.
Sid is awesome. He reminds me of Balthier from 12. He's just
really? Because there's somebody else that I got Balthier. There's somebody else that I got Balthier vibes from.
Okay, well maybe I'm
Clive.
only 22% into the story. So
then you've absolutely met the character, but maybe you need to interact with them some more. You've absolutely met them.
Okay,
Flynn, performance. I mean, you're fucking taking screenshots and sharing them on your phone here. So
yeah, it doesn't really come up as well, but very early screenshot of just the woods, which is in between the two demo sections. Yeah. And it's just like, this looks so freaking realistic. And I've shown it to my wife, I've shown it to friends, like, look what this picture I took, and everyone's face is bloody real. And then if you look right in the corner, there's a in-game character just looking over your shoulder. Just like, no, this is an in-game screenshot. And like, I'm far enough to see some of the big CG cutscenes. Like, we saw some in the demo right at the start with the battle between the armies.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, a lot of the demo was cutscene. And to be fair, a lot of the game is cutscene. Like, it is super cutscene heavy.
Talking to Flynn about that.
It doesn't end there. It doesn't in ways that I would spoil if I say more. But
it is very
I'm in
heavy.
graphics mode, and I was talking to top before stream, he was on about lip sync. I didn't realize that characters' mouths weren't moving. That might be a performance mode thing, just to say frames.
Maybe.
Because in graphics mode, all the lips are moving. They might be a bit off sync, but they move to everything you walk. Speaking, even when you just walk around and the character's talking, you flip the camera and you see him talking as you're just walking around.
Yeah.
The biggest issue I've really had is certain abilities are very much Final Fantasy XIV when all abilities are on and you're in the middle of a raid and you can't see anything.
The game absolutely it absolutely oozes Final Fantasy XIV design in a lot of ways.
Even got an orchestrion, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, well, just like sometimes in fonts, like so there's just things that you're like, that's the Final Fantasy XIV font there, and like I caught you. All right, so
there is one thing on music: they are missing a track, and it annoyed the living crap out of me.
Oh,
missing a track?
Mike, you should be far enough. Like, say the word White Heart, you might know what I'm
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. All right. Gets massive points for visual and audio presentation. Yes. Now the biggest change. Let's go straight to the combat system. Flynn, is it doing it for you? Is it actiony enough? Is it strategic enough? Is it customizable enough? Is it strategic enough? Is it customizable enough? Is it strategic enough? Like, what do you think of the combat?
It does need more customization. There are ways to augment cooldown timers, and that's it. The whole RPG side of building the character is just around what abilities you set, and when you master them, you can set them to other slots and stuff. So if you only care about X icons abilities, you just set them wherever you can and go for gold, and you just work around it. There are certain abilities I like more than others. Some I find a bit clunky.
Yeah, but that's the whole point of having all of them, right?
Depending on what you're fighting, the purpose makes sense. But I'm liking it. It is definitely nuanced. If you build a certain way, you can be a bit more aerial in what you're doing if you got up against right enemies. If you want to be a bit more countery, a bit more cautious, the game allows you to do that. It's just learning what abilities do, making sure you read, because some abilities I didn't realize could do also X purpose. So it's a lot of read the system, practice it in the training hall if you need to, and find out what you enjoy. Because if you want to go all flashy, you could definitely go all flashy.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Tark, what about you and the combat? I mean, this is the thing you're going to do the most besides watch cutscenes.
Well, it's funny. The first 4 hours, I think we played the game 1 hour, if that.
Well, wasn't it? I think it's Skill Up's video. He was like, "I'm not even joking. 70% of your time is going to be in cutscenes. Like, I'm not even joking when you do the main story."
I feel that. I feel that. Good thing that the cutscenes are all really good. As far as the gameplay itself, I am enjoying it a lot. I, pump my fist whenever I beat a boss, so it feels good. I'm tending to button mash a little bit, but it looks flashy and good on the screen. So, yay!
Yeah, I would say like it's very, at least when you're playing the main quest, it is very accessible, right? And I've seen people make memes out of that, right? Where I could sit there and hit one button or two buttons and get through this. But I think, that's, again, that's intentional, right? That is, if you just want to enjoy a Final Fantasy story, there's a very in-depth combat system here, but you don't have to engage with that necessarily if you don't want to. Certain things, certain boss fights might take longer, right? Certain things might take longer, but you can engage with this with relative ease. And then the training or the timing accessories would just make that easier if you wanted to use those. I am not using any of those. Are either of you?
I used the toggle one for a while just because I was accidentally using potions instead of telling Toggle to do things. So it's like, no, for a while, Toggle, just have this. I haven't got many accessories. I used to pre-order Cat Thief one just for some extra gills. Like, that and tiny sisters for Toggle. And just let Toggle do his own thing so I can forget he exists.
I'm actually really enjoing the combat and messing with, but I like Devil May Cry, right? And this is the next evolution of the same team that made the Devil May Cry action combat system. Yeah. This is just a variation of that. He calls it his masterpiece. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe.
I don't know.
I feel like there's some aspects of Devil May Cry that I actually wanted you to put in here if we were going to go this route that aren't there, but maybe that's a different topic for a different time.
Yeah.
I think the best way to say it is Devil May Cry allows you to be quite weightless in combat if you really know how to master it, whereas everything in 16 adds a weight to it. Then an infinite cycle. There's a deliberateness to everything you do.
That's a good way of putting it.
I'm very much enjoying it though. I rolled my eyes when we found out there was going to be hunts in the game. I was just like, ugh. But actually, I'm enjoying those because I like the combat, right? And
it's side quests though, right? Those green side quests.
Side quests are horrible. They are so, and sadly, they're not required. But there are some that do give you things that you definitely are going to want to do or have. And luckily you'll be able to tell those if you're trying to avoid side quests. The icon is slightly different. Okay, think Final Fantasy XIV. Think Final Fantasy XIV.
These side quests are so a Realm Reborn side quest. It's really bad.
Yeah,
a lot of them are, but a lot of it is emotional development for Clive.
Yeah, I would disagree. I'm halfway through the game, and I've come across maybe 3 side quests, Flynn, where I was like, that's cool. That's some additional context. That's some additional development for Clive learning about slavery or this or that or people treating people bad or I don't want to give any spoilers. There are a few side quests where the quest itself might suck, but the story payoff is good. But don't expect that out of many of them.
There is a lot of fluff.
Yeah, I would have rather they just didn't put him there. They don't have to be there. They don't have to be there. I don't feel like
very streamlined as part of the MSQ.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have to be there, but I don't know. There are a few that you're going to want to do. Watch for the plus signs. That's all. Like, if you don't want to do all the side quests, watch for ones that are indicated by a plus sign, a la Final Fantasy XIV. It means it's going to add something for you if you do it. And there are a few that you're going to want to do. They're not absolutely vital by any stretch of the imagination. If you want to totally ignore all side quests, you certainly can. But does this game actually explain why there's no diversity? Yoshi P claimed the game would explain why. No, well, it's not like
it is not a purely white game in any way.
It definitely isn't. But it does, suffer from a bit of a diversity issue still. I'm not ready to give it a pass on that stuff. But no, at least 50% of the way of the game, that's not like Clive making some comment to somebody about, like, hey, everybody here seems to be really pale. Like, no, there's nothing like that yet.
You could say that it's actually a game that has great racism undertones. It's just not about skin color. It's about the brand.
About something else.
Yeah.
About something else.
But every location you go to, the characters feel like they belong to that location.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I would agree there. There are some times though where even the main story gets a little clunky when it's trying to deal with the topic of slavery, because that is to Tark's point, and this is not a spoiler. You saw this in other stuff. There is a current of the haves and the have-nots and slaves, and it gets a little clunky sometimes in its treatment. We'll see how it pans out. I'm only halfway through it, but there are some just like very tropey, almost generic character arcs when it comes to dealing with slavery. It's not exactly the smoothest of transitions. And in the main quest, I do think there are moments where it lulls too much. I don't know if you guys feel the same, where it's just like you go from set piece to set piece to set piece to set piece, and then you play for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you've literally walked around the hideaway talking to 15 different people. Like, it just like all of a sudden comes to a screeching halt a little bit. Not to say that the dialogue isn't. Yeah, not to say that the dialogue isn't like pertinent. It definitely is. But there are like it does suffer, I think, from a few pacing issues that could have made it a little smoother, at least for my personal taste. But I'm loving the main story as a whole so far, halfway through it. I do want to get to the next beat, right? To the next beat. Yeah. I don't want to stop playing, so it's doing the right thing. Mr. Final Max in chat says, a discussion about slavery is always a difficult thing. Yeah, no doubt. Especially when you want to put it into an interactive medium like games. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I'm not casting aspersions on them. I'm just pointing out that it's a little clunky on the topic sometimes. It's trying to tell a story and have character development with a difficult topic, and sometimes it does it well, and sometimes it stumbles a little bit. At least for my personal. I know somebody. What site was it? They wrote up like a scathing article about it.
Could you think that maybe there's like not many or any people of color because he's dealing with racism in a different way and slavery in this sense. Like he didn't want to mix those up in a way and have it misconstrued.
Well, I see, but here's the thing. You know, that's a very nice thing to think is like, you know what? Maybe that was a thought saying, hey, our story is an awful lot about slavery. We certainly don't want to be insensitive and depict it along racial lines like that. But then why don't you say that when you were challenged on the diversity?
Yes.
You know, that should be your answer. Say, you know what? We deal with some topics, including slavery, and we did not necessarily want our game to be tied up in a racial line when it comes to slavery. And so we made the game a little less diverse so that there wasn't a clear black and white line for the topic. You say that when you are challenged about it. And I'd like to think that is exactly why. Hey, let's be a little sensitive.
That's a more honest opinion, honest take on it too, maybe. But
yeah, and you may walked away from that answer saying that's bullshit or a cop out or whatever, but at least you had an answer, right? That was why. We thought we were going to piss people off if we made a story about slavery and we had the white people free and the black people the slaves. Like we thought we were going to piss people off.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Yeah, we understand. Yeah, we get it. Okay, I might think you're pussyfooting around the issue. If you want to tell a mature story, do it in a mature way. But at least I get where you were coming from. Speaking of that, do you feel like this needed to be like adult? Because we're going to talk about another game that's like targeting adults in its context and its presentation. And I'm never a big fan, even in like movies and TVs, of like making things mature just for maturity's sake. Do you think this should have been M, or could this same story be told? And Final Fantasy's always told mature stories, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They were just presented in a different way, right?
Yeah.
They presented in a tamer, more double entendre way, where this one is, hey, they're going to use the F-bomb. People are going to walk around topless. Not that they show anything, but people are going to walk around topless. There's going to be sexual connotations to things, and we're not hiding it behind sprites or double entendre anymore. How are you feeling about that aspect of the game?
They definitely like to remind you every 5 minutes why it's an 18 when you're doing the MSQ. Whether it's swearing, blood, buttocks, and more buttocks. Or it's like offhanded stuff like on a sign in a random inn or something like that. It allows them to get away with some silly things.
I think this is just the story that he wanted to tell, and he told Square is like, I don't want to alter it. This is what it's going to be. I'm not searching for an M. This is just my story, and I think good writers, directors appreciate that. You know, this is the story I want to tell. This is how it is. If you, as a studio, want me to PG it, then find a different writer. So I applaud the team for that.
Jedi poking leisure suit, Larry. Final Max saying a thing to understand about 16 going into dark fantasy setting is the undoubted influence of Berserk. That's now at the cultural level for media. Yoshi P said as much in an interview I remember way back when, talking about the sad passing, right? And talking about Berserk, I'm happy with the way they went here. I'm really I'm okay with the gore. Doesn't feel like gore for gore's sake. The sex doesn't feel like sex for sex sake. Yeah, it's none of it's gratuitous. It does feel grounded. And I love the return to a fantasy setting. You may not. Hey, you got Balam Garden and this weird sci-fi thing going on. All right, in your one, Flynn. I like this return to high fantasy. Absolutely love that.
Satin.
The just the aesthetic of it, the castles, the crystals. I can't say that. That's going to be a spoiler for somebody. I like the storyline with the crystals.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the take.
Let me just say that.
Yeah, and where I've gone past where I think you're coming up to is like.
I like the. I guess we've been saying this. The Game of War, Game of Thrones aspects to this.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely like Game of
HBO shock value of Game of Thrones.
I've
Yeah.
been getting a
So-
lot more triangle strategy vibes. Actually, playing more of it.
It's very Game of Thrones. And again, Yoshi P was not coy about that being an inspiration. In fact, making many members of the team watch the show so that they knew
I'm
what they were
bringing in the
talking
Game
about.
of Thrones voice actor
Like,
for a character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
did.
yeah. He has
100%.
he has not shied away from these are the sources that we're taking a lot of inspiration from. And you can definitely feel every single one of those in there. But I absolutely love the castles and dragons and, return to high fantasy. Like, all in all, I was unsure, Tark, right? Remember, my hype level kept fluctuating. Then as we got
Yeah.
closer, it was going up. But I've always been a little unsure on
Sure.
at the end of the day, if they made Final Fantasy XVII in this same vein, would I necessarily buy that one? And
Day one, you
50% of the way, day one, 50% of the way through the game, 16, I'm going to say that as long as the story doesn't take some turn that is just absolutely the dumbest thing I've ever heard, or hey, we got all these threads to wrap up, let's wrap them up in the last 15 minutes of gameplay in the loosest of ways possible. Unless the story itself just massively disappoints me by the time I get to the end, I'm okay with the path. That doesn't mean that I have to like that my mainline Final Fantasy numbers have basically swapped genres, and there is no way around acknowledging that. They have. It's gone from an RPG to an action game. Sure, there's equipment and crafting. It doesn't fucking matter. It just absolutely doesn't matter. It's
so
total
pigeonholed
fluff.
and rammed down your throat that it's okay.
Yeah, it's total fluff. You'll go make one sword and you'll be fine for the next 8 hours. It is whatever.
You know what the gearing system feels like to me? It feels like, oh, you need to get this so you can actually meet the minimum item level to queue for the duty you're about to do.
Right.
So that's all.
You're
That's
not
what
going to
I'm
have a ton of items. You have your potions, your high potions, a couple different tonics, right? And it's very Demon Souls in you can carry so many of these things and use them and then go replenish them, but that's it. It's gone an entirely different way. You're not managing your equipment. You're not managing a party. Whether it's turn-based or otherwise. Those elements, they're gone, bro. It's not an RPG anymore. It's an action game. Through and through.
That's sad.
That's the way they wanted to go. I may not like that personally from my mainline numbers, but I'm going to have to get with the times. And I enjoy this game enough that I would play a 17 if it were in the same vein, and I'd probably grumble and yell at clouds then too. I'd probably grumble and yell. Again, I'm halfway through. I reserve the right to change my mind. Go ahead, Chris. Final thoughts.
I've been excited for this. The demos and everything that got me at a hype of a 10, and I picked it up day one. I am on the part where I am probably not going to pick it up day one. I will wait for reviews and see how good the game is. It is no longer Final Fantasy mainline titles are no longer day one purchases for me. It's a great game so far, and like you, I hope that the story doesn't turn into some crazy Final Fantasy 13 ending. I just want a good RPG. I collect good games, so if it's a good game, I'll pick up 17, 18, whatever. But they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt just because it's a mainline title anymore for me.
Flynn?
It's still going to be day one for me. Like I said, I don't know if it's the unique way that my brain's wired because I love 8 so much. It's I don't care if it's weird. I don't care if it's wacky. It's Final Fantasy. I'm there. That's all I care.
We'll put a final cap on those opinions in just a minute here, but to knock out some other small news. Speaking of mature, Dragon Quest XII is apparently facing some developmental difficulties. If you couldn't surmise that by stuff we've talked about on this show already, and some of that is being said to be due to trying to target an audience of adults, making it a more mature thing. In an interview with a Japanese outlet, Den Feminine Den Feminico Gamer. Oh my god, why can't I talk today?
Say that 10 times fast.
Right?
Go. It's just one of those names.
Creator of Dragon Quest, Yuji Horii, he says to respond to the question, well, let me start by saying that this year marks the 37th anniversary of the Dragon Quest series, and it coincides with the 35th anniversary. An HD 2D remake of Dragon Quest had been announced, and there are rumors that the latest title, Dragon Quest XII Flames of Fate, is about to be released. And Horii says, I guess that's going to take a little while. This time, we are making a game directed toward an adult audience, so we're having a lot of trouble. There was also due to the coronavirus pandemic, because of course it was. Are game programmers and designers basically working remotely? He says, yes. Do you have communication problems with this method? He says, yeah, it's fine. We do Zoom, and it works better for me anyway, because I don't remember names and faces, and on Zoom, your name is right next to your face. But developmental challenges, Tark, due to targeting a mature audience. And we already know a hybrid battle system of some type in here that they weren't specific about, except to say it was a hybrid system. What's your prognosis for Dragon Quest XII?
Not looking good. I don't understand that you have these known brands, these known quantities, and Dragon Quest is another one where they have shown no problem attaching Dragon Quest to another type of genre, but just label it different so people know what they're getting. So you're going to change the art style that has been prevalent in Dragon Quest for 3+ decades. You're going to mess with the turn-based battle system that has been prevalent for 3+ decades just to evolve all of a sudden knee-jerk reaction. Like I don't get it. If they could somehow keep the same aesthetic, I don't mind a mature story. I'm bewildered by Square these days, these years.
It's funny, we want to get a younger audience, so we're gonna take Final Fantasy XVI, make it more mature, make it an action title, and give it an M rating. By the way, this one over here, we're gonna also make more mature, but we're having some problems with it because of that. Like
maybe that's the art style with the maturity. I don't know what they're doing, artistically.
Yeah, I think Final Max has a good point. I think the real attempt is to get a more mainstream audience who are often not as mature as they think. I mean, when you look at Final Fantasy XVI, right down to the dubbing being done in the English language, this is, hi, here's a Western action game from Square Enix. Like, it is absolutely trying. Now, whether it succeeds or not, we'll see sales-wise overall. But it is absolutely trying to market itself as a Western game, not an RPG, nor an RPG that comes out of Japan. Like, it is straight catering to a Western audience, to the point of telling their own Japanese fans, we recommend that you watch it in English with Japanese subtitles because the dubbing is done in English. You can't ask for it to be more catered to a Western audience than that at this point.
This is
Flynn,
true.
Dragon Quest XII, any hope for it right now?
We've only seen a title screen, so...
Yeah, well, they did make an edit to that title screen. They did make an update where they gave it some shadows.
It's one of those things that they're saying they're trying this approach, that approach, but it means nothing because we don't know what the game's going to look like. Yep. So it's like, is it going to be turn-based, but they might have some QTE moments as part of the battle? Is it the art style could be drastically different? Is it not going to look like something that Akira Toriyama develops?
We'll see.
Yeah, who knows?
Square Enix also revealed this week some new details about the Front Mission 2 remake. So if you're looking forward to that, via their Twitter, they said it'll have 7 language localizations, a free roaming camera, which is already a huge improvement in my book from the original, improved loading time. I guess that's something we didn't mention about the Final Fantasy XVI, by the way.
Oh my God.
Fade to black, fade in, boom, boom. Even on fast travel, the load time is non-existent. Seconds.
From loading the game and hitting continue, 6 seconds to you're actually in the game. It's like, wow.
The craziest one is during the icon battles.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
transitions from fighting to cutscene to fighting to cutscene. That is
Right.
so smooth.
And reorchestrated music for Front Mission 2 Remake. So that's pretty dope. And then in other remake news, apparently staff at Square Enix wants Final Fantasy VI to be remade just as much as you do. Yoshinori Kitase was doing an interview, and he was asked about remakes and if they were going to remake Final Fantasy VI. And his response was, I think Final Fantasy VI Remake would be difficult. 7 Remake is not yet finished, so I'm not able to really think about it. But for Final Fantasy VI, there are many FF6 fans inside the company, and they often ask me, when are we making 6? It is important to note here that 6 was not a pixel-based game. It was a sprite game, so there might be some additional challenges in a 2D or 2.5D HD remake. But everybody in the crew at Square Enix wants that game too.
You give 6 to Team Asano and Auspice, and they will do wonders with it, and it'll be absolutely gorgeous.
Don't say that. Don't say that. The new DQ is going to be a third-person shooter. Yoshi P said in an interview that he could see a world where a Final Fantasy game is basically like a Call of Duty shooter game. Don't say that.
You tried to Cerberus, it failed. Move on.
Yeah, you trying to... You don't think 16 is your Final Fantasy?
He did.
Don't say... He did. He did say that.
But he did say not in main Final Fantasy, at least.
And I'm starting to come around. Like, if they start doing this, I'm starting to come around Yoshi P's line of thinking. Like, maybe they just do away with the numbered titles and just... You can Final Fantasy all you want. There's just no more number titles, and you have your different genres. And Stranger of Paradise, that's one genre, and just market it different.
In a recent interview, Final Fantasy XVI producer Naoki Yoshida said a shooter spin-off akin to Call of Duty isn't too wild of an idea. Yoshi P said the following: a great story, great game design, cutting-edge graphics, great music, and Moogles and Chocobos. If you have those things, I think you have a Final Fantasy. Call of Duty is using all this modern weaponry, but when you think about it, it's this small group of people going around saving the world. That's very Final Fantasy. All you would need is crystals. Yoshida's comment had no bearing on actually whether or not a Call of Duty like Final Fantasy spinoff would ever come to fruition. But there you go. Yeah.
We could get an Avalanche game, maybe.
He said that. Nintendo. Oh, by the way, yeah, we mentioned this at the top of the show. Are you shocked that in the FTC hearings, it was acknowledged that Microsoft did try or thought about acquiring a number of companies, including Square Enix? Something we all speculated probably happened before they pulled the trigger on the Activision sale, right on this show. And something
I think Mr. Final Max put it, bombshell, water wet.
Yeah. Water is wet.
My favorite one is the mathed out. I can't remember his name from Xbox. It's
Phil
timeline
Spencer.
of we're not gonna do anything with Japanese studios to. Yeah, we're definitely not doing anything with Japanese studios. Well, we don't.
No, it's not exactly clear like how far the plan went, because the documents show that there was a strategy approval plan on Microsoft's side that they don't know how, we don't know how high that went up or whether a proposal or an outreach was ever even made to Square Enix, but it was,
did
Microsoft being Microsoft.
Didn't Microsoft get laughed out of the meeting room once already? Keep trying. Maybe someday you'll actually get that meeting.
From Nintendo Direct, which was basically like, if we weren't going to talk about 16 on the show last week, our whole show last week, if we avoided 16, was going to be the next 3 minutes.
Right,
the Star Ocean 2 remake has been confirmed, Tark. Yes, and it looks amazing.
Looks so good. My mouth dropped at this. It looks like you've got enhanced visuals, but it keeps the spirit of the original game. It's perfect. Yeah. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, this is, and we had shown this is probably a thing because we had the logo. It was spoiled on Square's site 2 weeks ago when we did the show. Now confirmed via Nintendo Direct coming in November. So you just have a few months to wait. This one isn't technically Square Enix related anymore, Flynn, but you and I were giggling like little boys when we saw the Super Mario RPG is being remade as well,
yes.
also in November. Copyrights given at the end of this to Square Enix for characters and design, but not being developed by Square Enix. So not technically a Square Enix thing, but yeah, Flynn and I were giggling like
Square Enix
schoolgirls.
adjacent is good enough.
Yeah, it's adjacent.
Oh, I love this too. I love this.
This
too.
is an RPG I missed out by not having the console it came out of, so I am hyped for this.
Oh, as
I'm
you
just
call
looking
it,
at this,
as you call it, the SNES,
Yes,
right?
God.
Is it the SNES for you, or is it the SNES?
Oh my god.
SNES.
It's the SNES.
Oh my god.
We do it with more of a Z.
Hurts my
The
soul.
NES and SNES.
Right. Looking for a new Relic Grind host, right?
It absolutely
The
hurts
biggest
my
thing for us
soul.
over here is you have the Genesis, we have the Mega Drive.
You have the Mega Drive, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's different. Like you,
is different,
there's actually
yeah.
a different name. It's the SNES, man. It's SNES. Get the hell out of here. Torchwick, my
At
son,
least
like
our
talks.
European
Famicom, let's
version looks
go.
a bit nicer.
Yeah, you guys had the colored buttons on the controller at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah, and the actual console looked a bit different, I believe, unless that was only Japan that was different.
I think it was Japan that was different. I know you guys had
Super
the
Famicom?
colored control. Yeah, the Super Famicom. I can't wait for this one to come out November, baby, as well. So yeah, Nintendo's Direct across the board was just lit. Like I thought the Direct was great.
I don't know. Pigeons, man. Pigeons?
Oh, Headbangers!
Pigeons.
Don't you get me started on Headbangers, man. A rhythm-based battle royale with pigeons. Yes, sign me the F up. I will be streaming the shit out of that game. Hell yes. Go watch gameplay because Troy said the same thing
Don't
when
watch
I made
my
him
live
write it up.
react then because I turned that music down. I'm like, who asked for this? Pigeons? Really? Pigeons?
Troy thought the same thing when I made him write it up on MMO Bomb. Then, like a week later, it's coming out on Halloween this year. Then, like a week later, they released a gameplay thing, and he was like, okay, this actually looks like a lot of frickin' fun. Go watch the gameplay video. If you only saw the trailer at the Direct, go watch the gameplay video that came out the next week. The pigeon game does look legit. Legit. Let's go do Love It or Leave It. Love It or Leave It is the way we end every episode of the Relic Grind here. It's where I give you something Square Enix related. Could be a game, a feature in a game, a press release, something they did, they said, or something just tangentially related to Square Enix. And you tell me whether you love it, want more of it, or leave it, cast it aside, never to be seen again. There is no fence sitting here. However, on today's, we will revisit this because I'm going to make you make a call today, but then I will let you make the call a second time. Final Fantasy XVI as a mainline title, everything you've played so far, love it or leave it, and then you reserve the right to change your mind post-completion when we get there. But for now, Flynn, love it or leave it.
To quote probably my favorite offhand comment in the game, does Titan ship boulders? It's a bloody love it.
No, he doesn't. Okay. Oh.
Tark.
With 22% in, I'll say love it, but reserve the right to change upon completion because it could get wild. We'll see.
This one really hurts me to say. It really hurts me to say. I am absolutely very, very much enjoying the game. It is top tier. I don't think it's anything massively groundbreaking in the world of action games. I think it does what it's supposed to do. I could ask for a little more depth here and there in various things like the crafting and the equipment and stuff like that. There are gripes with it. I really, really like the game. I don't know about it being a mainline, guys. I'm still so torn on that.
Again, yeah, it's hard to separate the Final Fantasy and the game itself. I'm trying. Like, that's why I'm like, the game is good, but Like, I don't think it should be pigeoned into this branding.
I'm going to have to love it. There's nothing there enough for me to say, oh, wow, like, get rid of this thing. I may not personally like that this is the direction we may be headed for the mainline titles. That doesn't mean that I'm not enjoying the game. I'm just going to have to find what I loved about some of the earlier Final Fantasies somewhere else. And
Or
honestly,
wait for remakes.
you know, and I think maybe there's an aspect of a miss here for Square Enix. I'm going to be watching the numbers very closely because I think totally leaving the RPG space and not acknowledging games that are dominating that space, like Persona and stuff like I think that could be detrimental long term. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I'll be watching the sales. But I certainly think it leaves a space for somebody else that wants to be that next Square Enix. You know, the house built by an RPG. We'll see. That's going to do it for us here on the Relic Grind. Let us know what you think of Final Fantasy XVI so far, the pros and the cons in the comments below. No Faye streaming after the show today. We'll be back Saturday with Gaming Gumbo, your weekly gaming wrap-up, and of course live tomorrow on MMO Bombs channel in the afternoon, talking about multiplayer games. Until next week, Flynn, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Flint_Lollyet. You can find me over on Twitch, Open Ping Crisis. Should be back to normal streams next week if I'm done with 16, maybe.
There you go. Tark.
Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all at Tarkoth Gaming. Playing Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy XVI, and Crisis Core every once in a while. Almost done with that as well. And then Saturdays, you can find me here on Raideo Check Radio. Getting close to the end of Final Fantasy XV. We'll be doing episode Prompto and Ignis this weekend.
There you go. I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there. That's the title screen at Magic Man. But more importantly, follow at RZ Radio, RAIDEO. And you'll always know when we're going live with a podcast or stream, Final Fantasy trading card game, or just hanging out and having a good time. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you on the servers. Later.